15 years ago, I responded to a fire that still haunts my nights. It wasn't the biggest fire of my career, nor the deadliest, but it was the one that left a scar so deep, it sometimes feels like I'm still standing in that inferno, choking on smoke and regret. The call came just past midnight. A fire had erupted in the basement of a 2-story house, an old brick home with a history so long it might as well have been alive. The house was a relic, its balloon frame construction a fire's dream, a direct pathway for flames to snake up and devour everything in their path. When we arrived, the fire was already raging, the windows vomiting black smoke as if the house were exhaling its last breath. Inside was chaos. The family's 9-year-old daughter had invited friends for a sleepover. 8 children and 2 parents had escaped or were pulled out by the first responders, coughing and trembling in the cold night air. But one child was still inside. The daughter. The little host of what should have been an innocent night of giggles and whispers. Her absence hung over the scene like a curse. Her screams cut through the noise of the fire, a sound so raw and terrified it pierced right to the soul. "Help! Please!" It was a voice no one could ignore. My partner and I, seasoned firefighters, were tasked with the 2nd floor. As we climbed, the heat pressed down on us, heavy and suffocating. The air was thick enough to choke on, our masks doing little to shield us from the oppressive weight of the smoke. The house groaned under the strain of the flames, its wooden bones cracking and snapping in protest. "We hear you!" I shouted into the void, my voice muffled by the mask. "We're coming! Just hold on!" But the 2nd floor was a maze, an architectural nightmare. The layout didn't make sense. Doors we felt for were sealed shut, their frames warped or locked, as if the house itself wanted to keep us out. Hallways stretched longer than they should have, leading to walls where there should have been exits. We later learned the house had been remodeled over decades, creating dead ends and false pathways. At the time, it felt as if the house were playing tricks on us, deliberately misleading us, like some malevolent entity savoring our desperation. Her screams grew weaker, each cry for help more strained than the last. My partner and I pushed on, searching by touch in the blinding darkness, our gloves skimming over scorched walls and debris. The heat was unbearable, the kind that sears your skin even through layers of protective gear. The fire wasn't just consuming the house, it was alive, roaring with a primal fury, licking at us with flames as if to drive us out. "She's close," my partner said, his voice strained and shaky. We pressed forward, kicking at doors that refused to budge, battering walls that led nowhere. Every passing second felt like a lifetime. Every silence felt like a death sentence. And then it came. Silence. Her cries stopped, swallowed by the inferno. The only sound left was the relentless crackle of flames and the groaning protests of a house on the verge of collapse. My heart sank, an icy dread creeping in despite the unbearable heat. We'd failed. But we didn't stop. Orders to evacuate blared over the radio, the chief's voice sharp with urgency. The roof was close to caving, the structure on the brink of collapse. We ignored him, driven by a desperation that bordered on madness. We threw ourselves at every sealed door, every wall that might conceal her. Our air tanks beeped warnings, their alarms a cruel reminder that time was up. Still, we searched, clinging to the faint hope that we could reach her in time. When we finally stumbled out of the house, we were empty, out of air, out of strength, and out of hope. Outside, the family clung to each other, their faces streaked with soot and tears. I couldn't look at them. Not as the roof gave way, the 2nd floor collapsing in on itself with a deafening crash. The fire roared in triumph, devouring everything we hadn't been able to save. Hours later, when the fire was finally subdued, we found her, or what was left of her. A small charred bundle amid the ruins, barely recognizable as a child. I've seen death in many forms, but that sight, her small body reduced to ash and bone, was something beyond horror. It was despair incarnate. Over the years, I've witnessed unspeakable tragedies. I've held dying people in my arms, seen lives snuffed out in moments of chaos and cruelty. You learn to compartmentalize, to lock away the worst of it. If you didn't, you wouldn't survive a single shift. But some calls burrow deep, their memories festering like wounds that refuse to heal. Her voice still haunts me. In the quiet hours of the night, when sleep is elusive, I hear her cries. I feel the heat, taste the smoke, and smell the charred remains of a house that became her tomb. We saved so many that night, but it wasn't enough. She's a reminder that sometimes, no matter how hard you fight, you lose, and the cost of that loss is unbearable. 15 years later, her screams still echo in my mind. They're not just a memory, they're a punishment. A reminder of a little girl trapped in a burning house and the 2 firefighters who couldn't reach her in time.